Genesis chapter 26, and let's pray. Lord, teach us from your word now. Guide us, Father. Help us to learn something that'll draw us close to you. In Jesus' name, amen. And there was a famine in the land. You know, that happens quite often. Economies go up and down, okay? And you will have that in your own personal life. You'll have really good years and really bad years. How many have ever been doing pretty well financially? You ever had, making lots of money? How many have ever had everything go wrong and, lose it all, okay? It's up and down, okay? After every mountain, there's a valley. So if everything's going great, wonderful, hang on, get ready for the landslide. You're coming down, okay? There was a famine in the land beside the first famine that was in the days of Abraham. And Isaac went unto Abimelech, the king of the Philistines, unto Gerar. Now, Gerar, here's the outline of what's going to happen in this chapter. There's a famine. Isaac moves to Gerar, and God confirms his promises. Hey, promises to you, son. Isaac tells the Philistines that Rebekah's his sister. Well, his dad did the same thing. Isaac's going to do it again. Abimelech sees through the deception. That is not your sister. He catches them smooching, okay? We assume. It says sporting with his wife. I'm going to assume that means at least smooching, okay? Isaac prospers greatly and moves away from Abimelech and unstops all the wells that had been dug. And then Abimelech makes a covenant or a promise with him, and Isaac settles in Beersheba. That's basically the outline of the chapter. So here is Bethel. Beth means house, and El means God, the house of God, Beth-El. Not too far from Jerusalem. You come down here to Hebron. Abram did some work in Hebron. Lot and Sodom and Gomorrah is over here on the Dead Sea. Here's Beersheba. We'll get to there. So Abram's son, Isaac, is going to Gerar, right down here, right next to the land of the Philistines. And the Lord appeared unto him and said, Go not down into Egypt, dwell in the land which I shall tell thee of. And by the way, we should not go down to Egypt either. Egypt in the Bible is always a symbol or a type of the world. Go back to the world. Many people, when everything starts to go wrong in their life, they go back to what they know, back to what they're good at. And if they're, go back to the old life. Well, I used to make money selling drugs, so I'm going to go back and do that. Go back to Egypt, Well, I didn't have all these troubles when I was in the bars drinking, so I'm going to go back. They go back to the old life. Don't do that. God said, Isaac, don't go to Egypt. Stay in the land. I know there's a famine. I know everything's going wrong. Stay there.
Why don't we read Bibles from there then?
Why did he leave from there?
Why do we read Bibles from there then?
Well, we don't. Bibles from Egypt, that's the Alexandrian Bible. You don't want that one. Yeah, we'll get into that some other time. God said, Sojourn in the land, and I will be with thee, and I will bless thee. For unto thee and to thy seed I will give all these countries, and I will perform the oath which I swear unto Abraham thy father. Hang on, bud, it's going to be fine. And I will make thy seed to multiply as the stars of heaven, and will give unto thy seed all these countries, and in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed. Same kind of promise was made to Abraham, his dad. Because that Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charge and my commandments, my statutes, and my laws. Hold it. Didn't Abraham marry the wrong woman and have the wrong child that turned out to be troublesome, making our gas $2.50 a gallon today? Yeah. But God said, Abram, his heart is right, okay? You can make a lot of dumb mistakes, but God sees the heart. God, I really want to serve you. Yes, I know, son. Now, you're a moron and you make a lot of goofs, but I know your heart's right, okay? It's like kids when they're 2 years old and they try to help clean up the table, and they spill everything all over the place. Well, they're trying to help, okay? Don't yell at them. See, their heart was right. Hey, Mommy, I'm trying to help, okay? Good boy. So his heart was right. And Isaac dwelt in Gerar, and the men of the place asked him of his wife, and he said, She is my sister. He learned that from Dad. For he feared to say, She's my wife, lest, said he, the men of the place should kill me for her, because Rebekah was fair to look upon. And it came to pass, when he had been there a long time, that Abimelech, king of the Philistines, looked out the window and saw, behold, Isaac was sporting with Rebekah his wife. Whatever that means. Okay. And he figured out they're not brother and sister. Okay? And Abimelech called Isaac and said, Behold, of a surety she's thy wife, and how saidst thou she's my sister? And Isaac said, Because I said, lest I die for her. And Abimelech said, What is this that thou hast done? One of the people might lightly have lied with thy wife, and thou shouldest have brought guiltiness upon us. Here's a heathen king, got more spiritual sense than a godly man. And Abimelech charged all his people, saying, He that toucheth this man or his wife shall surely be put to death. Then Isaac sowed in the land, and received in that same year 100-fold. Remember, Jesus told the story about the people that go out and sow. Some bring in 30-fold, 60-fold, 100-fold. That's a really good crop. You plant, 100 bushels of wheat and bring in 10,000 bushels of wheat when your crop comes in. Farmers go crazy over that. That's called the yield. 100-fold yield is phenomenal. This happened to him. He was instantly rich. And the man waxed great and went forward and grew until he became very great. He's a good businessman. He's a Jew, okay? Did I tell you guys who invented copper wire? Two Jews fighting over a penny. Yep. For he had possession of flocks and possession of herds and great store of the servants, and the Philistines envied him. Anytime you get successful, somebody will come and envy you. You've got it. I want it. Oh, well, then why don't you do what I did to get it? Work hard, serve God, let him bless you. It's amazing how people will steal things from others because they can't get it themselves. The Philistines envied him. For all the wells which his father's servants had digged in the days of Abraham their father, the Philistines had stopped them and filled them with earth. Why you would ever do that in the desert, I don't know. But the Philistines filled all the wells up with dirt, so he went and dug them out. I dug out a well one time that had been filled in with dirt. An old well on the property we had in Groveland, Illinois. Talk about a royal mess. I'm down there in the bottom. We put a 20-foot ladder, tied the rungs together, dropped the ladder down. I had to jump down to get on the top of the ladder. And it was stuck in the mud. And I got down there, and they're bucketing the mud up and down. Ours was only 36-inch diameter. Okay, talk about claustrophobia. Digging out a well is a lot of work. And Abimelech said to Isaac, "Go from us, for thou art much mightier than we." And Isaac departed and pitched his tent in the valley of Gerar. So he was in Gerar, now he's in the valley of Gerar. And his guys start digging another well. What they would do is they would stack rocks up around the top, and you got to fit them in just right so that they can't fall in on each other. The circle is tight fit. And then you're going to get inside and dig out under them, and the whole rock column is going to slide down. It's an eerie thing to be in the bottom of a hand-dug well, because none of the bricks or rocks are glued together. They're all just stacked. And you have to piece them together so they can't fall in. The dirt's going to keep them from falling out, but yeah, interesting. Well, so they do that with bricks. These are loose brick. None of them cemented together. They're just all corner to corner where they can't fall in. Okay, so, and Isaac digged again the wells of water, which they had digged in the days of Abraham, his father. Great lesson here. Sometimes we got to go back and look, okay, how did Dad do this? How many of you think of that when you come to a problem? Well, how would Dad solve this? My dad was a genius at this kind of stuff. I never heard him yell till I was 13 years old. I didn't know he knew how to raise his voice. He was 6'2", Marines, World War II, the only survivor of his platoon. He was all man. But he was so patient with us boys. I was the third son. We did some really dumb stuff, and he just was patient. He was teaching me to drive the Volkswagen in the Kmart parking lot, 9 o'clock at night. He said, "Let the clutch out slow, son." And I popped the clutch and peeled out, and tore the. After about 10 times of tearing his clutch up out of his Volkswagen, for the first time in my entire life, he yelled at me. He said, "I said let it out slow." And instantly, he started crying. He said, let me drive, son. Let's go home. We'll try it again tomorrow. I ran him out of patience. But he was but I still to this day, Lady Di, you've known me for a long time, I'm always thinking, how would Dad do this? What would he say? Well, first of all, son, let's sit down and list all the options. We'd come in and say, "Dad, the lawnmower won't start." Okay, well, let's list all the options. He'd get a 3x5 card out of his pocket. Option 1, forget it, do nothing, let the grass grow. Option 2, get a goat. Option 3, hire the neighbor kid. Option 4, buy a new lawnmower. Go through all crazy options, Get a flamethrower, burn it down, And so, but it was to get us to think outside the box. I was out working on my Toyota one time, trying to get a bolt out from under the intake manifold to pull the manifold off to work on something. I didn't want, the instruction said you got to pull the head. I said, I don't want to do all that. I got to get this manifold off, put a manifold gasket in. So I'm trying to I got the wrench on there and I couldn't turn it far enough to loosen the nut because it kept bumping into stuff. So I got a universal on there and the 12 millimeter socket, but I really needed 3 universals to go around, So I said, "Dad, can you take me to Sears? I need to get 2 more universal joints." He said, "No, you don't." I said, "Yeah, I do." He said, "No, son, what's the real problem?" I said, "The real problem is we only got 1 universal joint." He said, "No, son, the real problem is you need to get the nut off." Oh, well, okay. You're right. I can't get the nut off. But to do that, I got to get two universal joints. He said, why can't you use a wrench? I said, because the wrench is too long. It hits stuff. He said, how much is a universal joint? I said, about $3. He said, cut the wrench. What? Saw the wrench in half, son. How much is a new wrench? $1.25. You want to go buy two $3 universal joints? Cut the wrench, son. We'll weld it back later. I still have the wrench out there in the shop someplace, 12 and 14 millimeter, welded together in the middle. Just to remind me, sometimes we get our solution to the problem and it's nowhere close to the real simplest solution. Cut the wrench. So I sawed the wrench in half and cut the nut off and fixed the car. It was still a junk car when I got done, but I had fun fixing it. Okay, so they digged again. I'm always thinking, how would Dad do this? You know, and if you didn't have a dad like that, I'm sorry. You can be the dad like that for the next generation. See, my dad's dad died when he was a teenager, tuberculosis. He went off to fight the Japs, World War II, came back, got married, and had 3 boys and a girl. He said, you know, my dad didn't teach me much of anything. He was sick for years and then he died. He said, somebody's got to break this chain. So he would go to the library and read books on how to build a birdhouse. And he'd get us all together down in the shop. Okay, boys, we're going to build a birdhouse. And he'd teach us how to run the saw and how to cut everything and nail it together, how to measure. We didn't realize till we were all married and out of the house that he was just staying ahead of us. He would learn things to stay ahead of us. He taught us everything, electrical, plumbing, heating. I can build a house. I can do everything. I can fix anything on a car. I don't want to, but I know how. And it gives that confidence. You know how it is, David, when you know how to fix things. It gives you like, whoa, I can fix that.
Feel good.
Yeah, it feels good. Some people don't know how to do nothing. Got to hire it done. Okay. Well, anyway, how would Dad do it? He digged again the well. Sometimes you got to go back and see, okay, let me pick up some of the good standards from my dad. Anna, you got an amazing dad. You better mimic him in 1,000 ways. Okay. For the Philistines had stopped them after the death of Abraham, and he called their names after the names by which his father had called them. They gave names wells names. And Isaac's servants digged in the valley and found there a well of springing water. This is good. You break through the clay and the water springs up. Oh, we don't have to bucket this one out. It'll flow out. Yay. It's in the days before pumps, you know. And the herdsmen of Gerar did strive with Isaac's herdsmen and said, the water is ours. Now think about it. Guys, we just dug this well. Yeah, but it's our water. Anytime you get something nice, somebody else will be glad to come steal it from you. And he called the name of the well Esek, because they strove with him. The word Esek means contention. Let's name this well contention. So here he is down here in Gerar. He goes to the valley of Gerar. And most of his life is spent down here in this lower part of Israel where it's kind of dry and water is like gold. And they digged another well and strove for that also. And he called the name of it Sitnah. Sitnah is a feminine name, form of Satan, which means adversary. See, names have meanings. The Indian princess said to her dad one day, she said, Dad, how do you name us kids? He said, well, whatever we see happening around us, we choose that for a name, like falling star, running deer. He said, why do you ask, puking dog? Anyway, never mind. Okay, that's a joke, Hannah. And he removed from thence and digged another well, and for that they strove not. Finally, he got far enough away, they're not going to fight over it. And he called the name of it Rehoboth, which means space. Finally, I got space. Like out here in Lenox, Alabama. Isn't this great?
Yeah.
We got space out here. Oh, this is awesome. You're addicted to the four-wheeler, aren't you, brother?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, okay. Now the Lord hath made room for us, and we shall be fruitful in the land. And he went up from thence to Beersheba. Now, Beersheba means the well of 7. Remember, Abram gave the guy 7 lambs and said, these lambs is proof that we got an agreement. This is my property. Kind of the equivalent of a notary public. You keep these 7 lambs. I gave them to you. This is my property. You got it? Yes, sir. Agreement. Okay. And the Lord appeared unto him the same night and said, I am the God of Abraham thy father. Fear not, for I am with thee, and will bless thee and multiply thy seed for my servant Abram's sake. You know, sometimes we get blessed because of what Dad did, not really because of what you did. You get blessed because of somebody else. And I like to be around people that are doing something for God, hoping I'll get some of their blessing pour off on me. God does that. I want to at least get close to the wealth and splash on me some. And he builded an altar there and called upon the name of the Lord and pitched his tent there. And there Isaac's servants digged a well. They're going to dig another one. Then Abimelech went to him from Gerar and one of his friends and some other guys. And Isaac said, "Wherefore come ye to me, seeing ye hate me, and ye have sent me away?" Remember, they stole 3 of his wells and then said, "Get out of here," and fought for everything. And they said, "We saw certainly that the Lord was with thee." Do people see that the Lord is with you? When the Lord is with somebody, they can go through horrible adversarial problems and trials and troubles and lose everything, and they just still keep a sweet spirit. Just, wow, the Lord's with them. Like the blonde was driving a brand new Cadillac, and a bunch of guys stopped her downtown and dragged her out of the car and drew a circle in the sidewalk with a piece of chalk. Said, "Don't you get out of that circle." And they went over and started stripping everything off of that car. I mean, they took a motor out, took the transmission out, took the rear wheel, took the wheels off, and stripped everything out. Walked back over, and there's the blonde smiling. He said, "What are you smiling about?" She said, "You won't get mad?" "No, what are you smiling about?" She said, "When you weren't looking, I stepped out of the circle 3 times." You can just decide, I'm going to have a good attitude. The lady took her twin boys to the psychiatrist and said, "Look, these guys are identical twins. One's a pessimist, one's an optimist. Are you brothers kind of opposite like that?"
Yep, that's how it goes.
You're the, okay, twins, okay. And the psychiatrist said, I can straighten them out. So he takes the optimist and puts him in a room with a big pile of horse manure. Shuts the door. Says, "I'll be back in an hour." Takes the pessimist, puts him in a room with a pile of brand new toys. "I'll be back in an hour." Hour later, he opens up the door. The pessimist is in there sitting in the corner saying, "Yeah, all these toys, they don't even have the one I wanted." They go in the other room, and the optimist is in there with a shovel digging through that pile of horse manure. He says, "Man, there's got to be a pony in here somewhere." You can just decide, I'm going to enjoy life. Life gives you lemons, make lemonade, have a good time. Okay, so he said, "We saw that God was with thee." I want people to look at Kent Hovind and say, "Man, he's been through the ringer, and he's still smiling. God's with him." I hope so. I think so. I want him to be. Okay. And we said, "Let there now be an oath betwixt us, even betwixt us and thee, and let us make a covenant with thee, if thou wilt do us no hurt, as we have not touched thee, and as we have done unto thee nothing but good." Oh, you bunch of liars. You stole his well 3 times. What do you mean we did nothing but good? People can do bad to you, and they can forget about it. And you'll remember it for a long time. And they'll forget. They're going on about their life, and you're still thinking they're angry about it. "And I have sent thee away in peace, and thou art now the blessed of the Lord." And he made them a feast, and they did eat and drink. And when they rose up betimes in the morning and sware one to another, Isaac sent them away, and they departed from him in peace. And it came to pass the same day, Isaac's servants came and told him concerning the well which they had digged, and they said, "We have found water." And he called it Sheba, which means oath or promise, because that's right after they made the oath and promise to leave each other alone. Therefore, the name of it is called Beersheba unto this day. That's how it got its name. Esau was 40 years old when he took to wife Judith, the daughter of Beeri the Hittite, and Bashemath, the daughter of Elon the Hittite. Had 2 wives, which were a grief of mind to Isaac and Rebekah. It burdens your parents when you marry the wrong one. How many parents have said, "You really shouldn't marry that one," and you run off and do it anyway, and then regret it later? What do they say? Marry in haste, repent at leisure. Is that the word? They were a grief of mine. He married 2 of the local heathen girls. And I suspect Rebekah and Isaac knew these kids are not going to grow up to love the Lord like they should, because their mom is not going to be a godly woman. So who you marry is important. And, if your parents aren't pleased, you put up red flags. The grief of mine. Parents, raise your kids where they want to please you and they want your approval. And they come to you and say, "Dad, Mom, what do you think? Do you approve of this?" And I'm hoping you're going to ask your dad when you find the right one, say, "Dad, what do you think?" Give him veto power. If Dad says no, okay. Your choice, Dad. I'll give you veto power. So anyway, that's Genesis chapter 26.